Hello and welcome back to the Real Talk podcast, produced by Duval County Public Schools. I'm your host, Matt Vegan.
And I'm Vicki Pierre, and joining us today on this podcast about the new changes coming to Oak Hill Elementary School are Mason Davis, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, as well as Exceptional Education and Student Services. Thank you for joining us today.
Hello, Vicki. Hello, Matt. Thank you for having me.
And then we have Gail Roberts, who is the Executive Director of Exceptional Education and Student Services. Thank you for being here.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
All right, we have Kelly York, Communication Social Skills Program Site Coach from Oak Hill Elementary. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
And then finally, we have Dr. Paul Argott, Instructor of Psychology of the College of Arts and Sciences at the University of North Florida. Thank you for being here.
And thank you for inviting me.
So let's just get to this. Why do we need an autism school or the autism lab here in Duval?
Well, Matt and Vicki, we are looking at several different issues. We are facing a utilization issue in the schools in the surrounding area at Oak Hill with charters coming up and students electing or parents electing to take their students to private schools as well. And you also have accountability issues with the State Department with the letter grades that the state places on schools based on the accountability system and the state assessments that are delivered in the school year. Addressing those two issues along with the needs of the autism community, we are losing about 300 students with autism to private schools and charter schools, and we would like to provide the services and get those students back into our district.
And so I think to a lot of people, this sounds like a pretty unique idea, at least in terms in the public school setting. So this next question is for Gail and Dr. Argott. Are there any schools or programs like this in the state of Florida or in the nation?
Well, in the state of Florida, there are several charter schools, one particularly in Palm Beach County and another in Miami. There are also a lot of local private schools in our community that are serving students with significant issues related to autism.
And throughout the country, I can speak for the Northeast as I come from New Jersey. There are some schools up north where individuals with autism and other developmental disabilities are being taught together in one situation. Specifically, Bergen County Special Services is one. What does make this a little unique is the collaboration, the potential opportunities for internships. For people in college to have opportunities to work with students and individuals who are really excited about doing that, being able to have the opportunity to work with these guys.
So I guess now let's just talk about autism. How do we define it, and are there multiple levels of autism?
Well, autism spectrum disorder is defined as a range of pervasive developmental disorders, and it's characterized by inconsistencies in language, social interactions, adaptive behaviors, and cognitive skills. The impairments in social interactions are things such as delays, absence, or atypical ability to interact with others or the environment. The impairment also affects verbal and communication skills, and there's a presence of restricted or repetitive patterns of behaviors, interests, or activities. And autism spectrum disorder, which is the correct term, has a wide range of skill deficits and impairments ranging from very mild to very significant.
Interesting. And so, Kelly, you're in the schools. You're at Oak Hill Elementary. What would you say are some of the major differences in teaching students with autism versus teaching students without disabilities?
I do have to say, first of all, there are many similarities in teaching both students with autism and students without disabilities. All the students attend school for an education in academics, social interaction, and communication while becoming more independent as they mature and grow. So, with that said, the difference is the intensity at which we teach these students with autism. Each student, with the help of the school and the parents-based team, we have an individualized, planned, and strategic program of direct instruction created specifically with the students' needs in mind.
Professor Argott, you've been working with and studying students with autism for years. In your opinion, would an autism lab school benefit students here in Duval?
I think absolutely. The individuals with autism, they are cognitively behind their typically developing peers, and while they do learn and they can learn at a very, very high rate, they have a difficult time learning at the same rate as a typically developing individual. So an autism lab school will allow Duval County schools to provide the intensive education that Kelly was talking about and be able to do so on an individualized basis. Where even if the students aren't working in, say, a one-to-one necessarily, they can still identify different skill deficits, they can identify the pace at which students need to learn, and then also identify the actual skills that the students need in order to maximally progress and obtain what they have to obtain in order to live independently and with the most success.
And so, Dr. Argott and also Kelly, this next question is for y'all. What would the learning environment look like in this school versus your typical learning environment? I don't know if that means more hands-on activities, smaller classes. Give us some ideas about that.
Well, I think smaller classes is definitely a plus. I would say in an ideal situation, you'd have maybe 6 students in a classroom totally, and you wouldn't have much more. Where in a more general education classroom, 20, 18, things like that, even 30 potentially, depending on the size of the school. I also think individualized instruction is going to be key, not having one general curriculum for the entire school, but focusing each student's curriculum on their own deficits and what they need more so than anything else.
I agree with Dr. Argott. We definitely need a smaller pupil to teacher ratio with the added support of additional resources such as paraprofessionals, speech and language pathologists, occupational therapy, physical therapy, even art and music therapy. And these people come together with parents to create an academic setting that provides positive reinforcement, sensory integration, to include technology and visual supports to teach the whole child.
And I would add in there a very strong behavior analytic component in collaboration with the other therapies. I think is going to be key for these students. Just in my experience, given behavior analysis has the research support behind it to show its effectiveness on individuals in this population.
And one thing that our stakeholder group over the course of the 14-15 school year stated was that the ability level of the students really impacted the quality of the service provided. So being able to ability group students where a parent has choice to place them with like ability students will really have a big impact on service providers and teachers, paraprofessionals being able to provide the appropriate service for students.
Will teachers at Oak Hill be required to have specific certifications and qualifications?
Matt, we are going to be working with the Duval Teachers Union to do a memorandum of understanding to ensure that the teachers selected for Oak Hill either have the autism endorsement or are committed to working towards it so that they can have that special expertise that they need to work with the students.
And Gail, could you speak specifically to what we are in the process of doing for the district as far as the autism endorsement?
Absolutely. So we are in the process of developing our own modules for the ASD endorsement, which will allow us to provide those courses with no charge to the teachers and the flexibility to meet the needs of their work schedules. So we'll be able to start that in the summer.
And the ASD endorsement, the acronym stands for Autism Spectrum Disorder.
Interesting. And so let's say, I'm listening to this podcast. I've heard what's going on at Oak Hill. I have a child with autism attending a different school. Can I get them into Oak Hill? How would that process work?
Yes, currently we are in the process of creating a checklist similar to how we created a characteristic checklist for the GRASP Academy, which was started for students who have or show signs of dyslexia. Once that checklist is established, we will have the site coaches such as Kelly and her peers will go through their students who are in their centers now and will identify those students who where Oak Hill would be appropriate. So some students Oak Hill will not be appropriate for, but if a parent requests to go to Oak Hill, then we will have the meeting to determine the need, and then the IEP team will always make the placement of those students.
So I guess this would just be an open question. Should all students with autism go to Oak Hill?
Well, all decisions regarding services and placement are IEP team decisions, which parents are a required member of that team. So the lab school is designed to add an extra option for our students with the most significant impairments related to autism. Students that are already participating in general education classrooms or getting ready to participate would not be the type of student that would that we're looking for Oak Hill, because they wouldn't have those inclusionary opportunities, because Oak Hill will only have students with disabilities K through 5. The pre-K students, there will be some students that have without disabilities.
I'd just like to jump in on that a little bit. The short answer to that question is no, absolutely not. Not all students with autism should attend one single school. There are many students on the autism spectrum who have a very good skill set, and they have the ability to interact well with their typically developing peers. With some support and extra help in academics, they can perform very well in a typically developing with their typically developing peers. So those students who are progressing well and just need some limited support should definitely not come to Oak Hill. And if you have a child like that, Oak Hill wouldn't want your child there, because they're not going to benefit maximally from that point. They're going to get the most effect from the school that they're in with maybe some extra support.
And so considering the typical student, so to speak, that Oak Hill will be serving, how do you respond to the argument that a lot of people, I'm sure, have already posed to y'all, this is only going to isolate these students?
I can understand that argument quite a bit, and I come back with this statement: the students who are going to benefit the most from Oak Hill are students who don't yet have a skill set necessary to benefit from interaction with typical peers. So Oak Hill is going to be should be an environment that teaches these students those skills and gives them the prerequisite foundational abilities, so that when they are placed with their typically developing peers, they can get the maximal benefit out of that. At this point, they don't have those skills, and so placing them with their peers isn't going to give them what parents are looking for, which is kind of the natural interactions, because those won't happen. Once they learn how to have those interactions, then they can happen, and then they can get from their peers what parents are looking for.
So I guess this is our last question. This isn't going to be a change that's just going to affect Oak Hill. This is going to affect the surrounding community and even possibly Jacksonville as a whole. What do you see as the impact that Oak Hill is going to bring to the Duval County Public Schools?
So, as stated earlier in the podcast, I think the first thing you have is utilization issues at the schools in the area. So you have Cedar Hills, Gregory Drive, Jacks Heights, and Oak Hill, all within a couple mile radius of one another. And we have charter schools that are popping up directly across the street, right down the road from these schools, that are draining our students. And in order for us to build new facilities in that area, we have to maximize seat capacity. We have to have a certain utilization, or the state will not allow us to spend our capital dollars on building a new facility to get the kids back. And the charter schools that are coming up, they have brand new facilities, so it looks nice. The aesthetics are nice. Doesn't mean what's inside is any better than what we're offering, but aesthetically it looks better. Maybe they offer some different technology offerings that we do not offer. But in order to increase utilization and build those buildings, we have to figure out how to maximize our space and then how to get students back. And I believe that this will have an impact in the greater community, where it will increase utilization in the schools. It will bring students back into the area. And similar to GRASP, if this is done correctly, we are receiving national recognition for the GRASP Academy. And hopefully the goal is to do the same with Oak Hill. This is cutting edge. This is something that is not being done in other school districts as a public school a choice, and we are providing this as a choice, and it is something that we'll take pride in and get it right, and hopefully become a national model like GRASP is.
Well, I can add to the impact on Jacksonville as a whole, in that the opportunity for UNF students to participate in practicum and internship opportunities, to be able to get those experiences working with individuals with disabilities, is tremendous. These students that I've spoken to, they have a passion for working with students, and they want to work with kids, and specifically children with autism and disabilities. So to be able, as an undergraduate student or as a graduate student, to get these opportunities is tremendous for them. And then for students in the graduate programs, getting their teaching certifications, trying to get their BCBAs, going through the programs over there, the job opportunities for them to be able to stay in Jacksonville grow up in Jacksonville, get their education in Jacksonville, use that education to benefit Jacksonville is just kind of the dream.
And this is a critical shortage area. We actually offer financial incentives for teachers to come into the communication social skills unit, which is where the students that are placed in a special setting on the autism spectrum are taught. And those teachers do receive financial incentive to come into that area. We still do have a shortage in the area, so building the relationship with the university, partnering with them will impact the entire city and all of our units throughout the school district.
Wow, so this has been definitely another eye-opening episode of the Real Talk podcast. Thank you all for joining us. If you want to know more about what's going on at Oak Hill Elementary and the future plans of Oak Hill, visit duvalschools.org. And for Vicki Pierre, I'm Matt Began, and thanks for listening.